Baby, look what we've come to be. Ever since the girl, time I'll treat me. Baby, I'm glad you called you mine. You're so beautiful. I know they're looking all the time. But listen, I wanna say to you, I got to lay to you. You're everything I need. You were made for me. You were made for me. Girl, I'm in love. You were made for me. You're made for me. Blessings, blessings, blessings. I want to welcome you to Deliver Me Nuggets. My name is Apostle AleciaBiggers. And first of all, I do not own the rights to this music. This is Pastor Tim Rogers, made for me. Pastor Tim Rogers, made for me. And so today I want to talk to you about the goal of the enemy. This is something that I begin to talk about, that I teach my students in my mentorship class. And this is all something that I begin to write in my book. That a lot of times we always talk about what God has for us, but people don't recognize the enemy has a goal for people. And so many times we're so ignorant, we don't even think about it. We don't let it phantom our mind that the devil doesn't plan to take over your life and to control your life. And not only you got to understand about the devil, he don't just want your life, but he wants your future generations' life. So therefore, not only do he want you, but he wants your children, and he wants them to keep repeating the same cycles that you got in your life, and he wants you to pass them down to your children. How do the enemy do this? The enemy do this by allowing things, when things happen to us in our lives, especially when we are little children. When you find children going through trauma, going through abuse, going to any type of grief, any type of hurt and disappointment, and if that child does not get any type of counseling, what it does is it cripples the way that that child sees life. That child no longer see life from its innocent, but the child sees life based on what has happened to them. Say for instance, a parent left their child, and so the child is being raised by their grandparent. And so now that child seeing other kids with their parents, that child will begin to feel abandoned. That child will begin to have a rage, begin to feel, how come I'm not good enough? Why my mom didn't keep me? Why my dad is not with me? And instead of that child growing up in a healthy environment, it will make that child think that something is wrong with them. And so this is why we got to understand, if you don't recognize what was going on in your life, especially even when your mom was pregnant with you, recognize the generational cycles. We gotta be careful, and we gotta have those conversations with our parents, grandparents. What are the generational cycles in the family? How can I tell the generational cycles? The patterns that you see. So if you see a lot of divorce, that's a curse that the enemy is bringing in the family. You see a lot of people having children out of wedlock. That's a generational curse in the family. People are alcoholics. That's a generational curse. People are always going to jail. These are curses. So whenever you see something repeatedly going on in a family, that's the generational curse. You see some families, some people never own a house. They're always renting. That's a generational curse. People are always getting in trouble. Those are curses, and that's what the enemy wants to do. He wants you to duplicate what you saw. And this is why, if a person do not be intentional, recognizing their unresolved issues, recognizing when they've been wounded, when they've been hurt, what has caused them to make that person look at life in a dysfunctional way, in an unhealthy way, where they feel like their life don't matter, don't nobody love them, don't nobody care about them. This is what the enemy wants an individual to see when they see themselves. He wants them to live their life out of their hurt. So when you find yourself, you living your life based off what they did to you. It happened at a young age, but here it is as an adult. You're still suffering from the same things that had happened to you in your childhood. A lot of times, I was one of those people. I was ignorant. I did not understand that my childhood had a lot to do with the things that I was dealing with as an adult. And that's what the goal of the enemy. He wants you to be ignorant. He wants you to think that, you know what, life just happens and it was just a coincidence. No, baby, it wasn't a coincidence. It was intentional. The devil was intending on your daddy to cheat on your mama, and for your mama had to have somebody else to keep you. Then the person who kept you molested you, because guess what? Your grandma, the same thing happened to you, happened to your mama. The same thing happened to your mama, happened to her mama. And these are the same cycles that keep repeating themselves. But when we are so ignorant and we don't even think about trying to find out what has gone on in our family, so that you will know what to pray against, you will know what to look for, and you will know what to get healed and delivered of. Because when you don't want to have these conversations, because one thing I can notice about the older generations that in their 70s and 80s, those are the kind of generation that like to keep things secret. When my mother was alive, I would ask her, well, mama, what happened? Why so-and-so didn't get married? Why everybody, having babies out of their wet? Like, they didn't like to talk about it. And see, this is what we got to be willing to talk about, those sensitive issues. Because here it is, you allowing your children to be around the same person that used to touch you. Or you got to ask yourself, Uncle Bobo used to touch the children, and guess what? Now Uncle Bobo's son is touching a younger generation. Because here it is, we're not talking about these things. These things are secrets. We don't want nobody to know. And we wonder why you walking around in fear, why you walking around and anxious, why you got anxiety. You're feeling the way that you feel because you got a lot of unresolved issues going on that you have not dealt with. And that's what the enemy wants you to stay at that place, because when you got people not dealing with their unresolved issues, not dealing with those generational cycles. So daddy drank. So now you find yourself that you keep drinking, or mama pop pills. You find yourself, you got to pop pills because you hearing voices, you doing the same thing mama did. And so when you don't talk about it, that's what the enemy wants you to do. He wants you to keep silent. He wants you to think that it's just you. Can I tell you, we all have issues in our family. And if you want to be delivered, you got to be the one that you got to look at the nakedness. You got to look at the ugliness. You got to be able to ask questions. Let's talk about this stuff. Let's write this stuff down. Because we can have church all we want to. We can bind up the enemy all we want to. But if you do not get to a place to see what is the enemy trying to do to your family. So if mama got molested at 15, you know you got a daughter 14 and a half, all of a sudden now these boys hanging around her, all of a sudden she's, don't want to listen to what you got to say. Those generational demons, guess what? It's coming through the bloodline, because what happened to you, guess what? Now the enemy wants that same thing to happen to your 15-year-old, because now she's 14 and a half, she's getting ready to be 15. You got to understand the enemy studies us. And so when we don't recognize that the enemy studied us, and we just walking around here thinking, well, I'm just do good and I know what I'm doing. No, baby, I cannot tell you. The enemy don't come with like a man with a pitchfork and two horns. He comes very deceptive. He comes sneaky. He comes manipulate what you can't hardly tell. So it's going to take the spirit of the living God. And so this is why you got to recognize what it is that you're dealing with. When I was a little girl, my mom, she would not, even though she was married, but she would tell me, I could not walk around in the house I had to have on my house coat. I couldn't just have on my gown. I had to have on my house coat. I couldn't have on those short shorts. My mom didn't play the radio with that stuff, because and she said, don't you sit in no man's lap. Don't you let no man touch you. Sometimes now I'm seeing grown people kissing little kids in the mouth, seeing them rubbing them, sitting on people's lap. We got to understand, when you know you got incest, you know you got things going on in the family, guess what? Those demons stays in the family. And guess what? They'll just work with the modern technology. This is where you got to talk to your kids, because and I ain't talking about no birds and no bees. I'm talking about talking to your kids, because guess what? Hormones, they feel things. And if it feel good, but you don't want to talk about it because you feel like you ain't ready yet. But guess what? If you don't talk to your child about this stuff, guess what? A child in their school are going to talk with it about them. Somebody in the community is going to talk to them. And so therefore, if we don't get familiar with talking about these things, guess what? The enemy wants to change your identity. This is why so many people have a hard time seeing themselves how God sees them. Because see here, God says, ladies, you're beautiful and you wonderfully made in Psalms 139. But if you was always called ugly, you just a little heifer. Gone with your ugly self. Don't nobody want you. You're used to that. So guess what? It's the goal of the enemy to make you have a complex about yourself. So you heard that as a child. And so if you don't pay attention, well, that's how auntie talked to her daughter. That's how grandmama called everybody names. So you're seeing that those are generational cycles. This is what your mom do. And so you got to ask yourself, if you being called out of your name, guess what the enemy is trying to do? He's trying to tarnish your self-esteem. He's trying to tarnish you where you don't feel good about yourself. He want to make you feel that you're not important. He want to make you feel like, you know what, you will never measure up. You will never be good enough. And so just by hearing that at your teenage years or as a kid, guess what? It's going to affect you as an adult if you don't realize that this is the goal of the enemy, what he's trying to do to you. One of the things he tried to do to me, even when I was a kid, I saw a lot of abuse with women in my family. I saw a lot of emotional abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse. And so as a kid, I said, I do not like that. I don't like that. I hate this. I seen it with my aunts. I seen it with my uncles, my mom, my family members. And I said, and it made me so mad. And I said, you know what? I'm never going to allow a man to do this to me. I will look for what I saw happen to them. I was looking for those things that happened to me, not understanding the enemy was trying to put an image in my mind to make me to have an issue with men and to tell me all men are going to abuse you. All men are going to punish you. You got to understand these are goals of the enemy. And so when you don't recognize and when you don't go back to what's been put in your eye gates, what's been put in your ear gates, you got to understand the enemy is trying to give you an identity, what he wants you to see. So if you had to raise yourself, the enemy want to give you the identity that it's all about you. Nobody would never help you. Nobody would never support you. You'll always be on your own. That's what he wants. He wants you to feel that you're not good enough, that you're not important, that you're by yourself, that you're abandoned, you're an orphan. He wants you to believe that loneliness, don't know about nobody never loved me, don't nobody want to help me. My own mama didn't want me. My own daddy didn't want me. Didn't nobody want me. So I been on my own. I had to take care of myself. So guess what you'll do? You'll push away people who God put in your life to try to help you. People who God will put people in your life trying to tell you things. Oh, I don't want to hear it. I'm good. What do you want from me? I know you want something. It's because here it is. You would cause them to reject you, and you'll start making them reject you because you feel that they're gonna reject you because you feel like the other people in your family reject you, and you won't know how to handle healthy relationships. See, this is what the enemy wants you to do. We talk about February. Talking about love, you got to love yourself, love your family to know how to recognize what it is that the enemy is using, trying to destroy the family, trying to destroy the children, trying to destroy your grandchildren. You got to understand if you don't look at these cycles, you got to do more than just go to church. You got to do more than say, I cover with the blood of Jesus, because you got to understand these generational, you got to understand trauma is passed down from generation. Pain is passed down. Slavery is passed now, even from the black people, black Americans. We got to understand the trauma from slavery is passed down from generation to generation. So it can automatically be in a person, but somebody got to be the one to recognize why everybody in the family, every time they try to start a business, why nobody won't help them. Why do people talk them out of starting their own business? Why do people try to say, oh, you think you better than everybody else just because you want more? You got to understand those are generational mindsets of poverty. And that's what the enemy wants you to do. He wants you to have a mindset that you can't start your business, that nobody won't buy nothing for it from you, that you know where you will never have anything, so you might as well forget about it. Those are the things that the enemy wants you to think about yourself, because he's coming to mess with your image. The enemy cares how you see yourself. That's why the Bible told us in Genesis 1:26, God created us in the likeness and image. He created male and female. An image is a mental picture. God wanted us to always look at ourselves to say, you know what, I got to be fruitful and to multiply, that I got dominion, that my words matter, that I can change my atmosphere by the words that I speak. But when we do not understand our identity, we think that God got certain people who he give his anointing to. We think that God got certain people that can speak the word and they word manifest. No, your words will manifest just like how my words will manifest. But because if you don't know how to look at yourself from the perspective that God sees you, and you looking at yourself from how I'm a nobody, I'm not good enough, I'm not important, guess what? The enemy know that. That's why he let what happened to you. That's why he brought it to happen to you that way, because he don't want you to speak. He don't want you to say something. I notice a lot of times in our communities, people have picked up the image of I'm shy, I'm quiet, I don't have anything to say. Guess what? I had that same perception. But when I got delivered, I realized that, you know what, that I talked so much that I used to be telling people business. I tell my mama, tell my aunt, my mama talking about, I was a little kid listening to grown folk conversation, and my mom said, shut your mouth, shut your mouth, you talk so much. And so as a kid, I remember hearing shut my mouth, shut my mouth, shut my mouth. Where I heard it so much, it got me to a place that I got quiet, because I felt like, you know what, I ain't got nothing to say. Not realizing that I was talking too much, but because of my immature mindset, it had me to be at a place that I just need to be quiet because I don't have anything good to say. So when I went through deliverance, I had to realize, and when God was calling me into ministry, I had to go through so many mindsets of saying that I do got something to say. I do have a voice. I am important. Mama was just telling me that because I was saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. My timing was off, and I kept speaking when I should have known to be quiet. And that's the same thing as far as like with self-discipline. So when she told me to shut my mouth, it got to a place that I got quiet totally, and I didn't say anything. And so which one you like, the red or the blue? I really felt like my decisions, what I had to say, did not matter. And so therefore, here it is, got wounded as a child, and it affected my now as an adult. Somebody would hurt my feelings and I wouldn't say nothing. You know why? Because what happened as a child, it was affecting my adult life. And so when I start getting delivered, I start realizing I do have a voice. I start realizing what I say, it does matter. And so when I start saying what I needed to say, I realized that God was bringing me out of that place of bondage, because I had myself in bondage by what I thought about myself. I had myself in bondage by what I thought other people were thinking about me. This is why it's very important. You got to understand that Satan got some goals for your life. And you got to, if you don't know the goals that what the enemy wants to use to destroy you, you now need to begin to ask God, show me what is the goals of the enemy to destroy me? How is it that the enemy want to destroy me? How is it that God told you a millionaire, but you realize you struggle with your finances? God told you that he's going to use you to be a healer, but the enemy always bringing to you sickness. You got to understand that what you deal with, what you struggle with, you feel like you're not important. You feel like you ain't got nothing to say, because God have given you something to say, but it's where you got to get over and realize and start hammering on these things, getting delivered, going to the root of the problem. Where did this come into existence at? Looking at yourself, going back, you know what? Why don't I feel pretty? Man, why don't I feel smart? Why don't I feel strong? Could it be that you just a little punk? Go ahead and sit yourself down. You weak as I don't know what. Could it be that you heard them words, them name calling as a kid? Now as an adult man, you feel some kind of way about yourself. You don't feel good enough. You don't want to smile. You feel like you can't talk to a certain lady because you feel like you're lower than her, that she's higher than you, because somewhere you were made to feel that you wasn't important. And if you don't get to the bottom of these things, you know what? Did your dad feel like that? Did your uncle feel like that? What men in your family made you feel? Why do you see yourself the way you see yourself? Or why do you act like this? Is it because as a male, you found yourself around a bunch of women? And so you find yourself acting like women, being soft like women. And so not having a role model, it make you feel like, you know what, you're not good enough. So this is not always the case, but I'm just throwing some different things out there so that you can understand that the enemy has a goal for your life. Because so many times we walk around, you know what, God got a calling for my life. God want me to sing. God want me a prophet to the nation. God want me to be a teacher. God want me to be a minister. God want me to help his children. God want me to feed the homeless. But you got to understand, you got to be intentional. So when you know what God wants you to do, but you also got to know too what it is that the enemy wants from you. Because guess what? If you don't know and you're not recognizing, so if you want to be free, if you want friendships and the enemy know that you don't love yourself, he'll send those user people to you, and you start watching. You know what? People use mama, people use grandmama, people use granddaddy. You got to understand that user spirit is in your bloodline, and so therefore either you're going to attract a user or either you're going to be the user. You got to understand the enemy, he watches this. He's not going to bring me something in my bloodline that I don't do. He's going to bring what's in my bloodline, what the family struggle with. And so therefore, if you got family members struggling, helping one another, guess what? You're going to have that same thing in your generation. Mom, sisters don't help her. Here it is now, you and your siblings don't help you. Your children don't want to help each other. Those are generational spirits. This is where you got to ask God to open up your eyes and to begin to reveal to you things that are going on in the bloodline, because the enemy is coming to destroy. And this is where we can't be so naive, think, well, if I don't think about it, I ain't got to worry about it. No, you got to understand the devil hate our guts as God's children. And guess what? He studied us enough because he wants to be specific to bring the right spirit in your life. When I say spirit, he want to use people. So he'll have people that have them same spirits to take you down, spirits that will tarnish you. So if you got feelings of insecurity, low self-esteem, he'll bring somebody in your life to say, you know what, that dress don't look good on you. That color don't look good on you. What is that person doing? They saying some ugly stuff. They hit below the belt, and the enemy is trying to crush your identity, how you see yourself. If I were you, I won't never wear that dress because that ain't your color. Here it is, you like the dress. You felt good with the dress on. But when your friend told you that, now you won't even put back on something that you like, not realizing that person jealous of you, but they was looking for an opportunity to crush you, and that's what they did. And this is why we got to begin to learn how to deal with our issues and to begin to be strong within ourselves to say, yeah, you know what, you have your right to your opinion, but I like this dress, and so I'm gonna keep it on. And so therefore, where you know, if you want to keep it on, you keep it on. You want to wear it again, you wear it again. It's not where you're changing your life based off what somebody else said, because the enemy will put people in your life to tell you. I know a family member dropped out of school. Teacher kept saying, you know, you ain't gonna never be anything. You might as well drop out of school. You know what? You ain't gonna make it in life. You might well be a janitor somewhere. You might well, and guess what? It caused that child. Because a lot of times when we are not speaking into our children's lives, telling them as little kids, the first 12 years of a child's life is the most important years. Why? Because they're forming their identity. Do you not know at 59 days old, when a woman is pregnant, that child brain is already being formed into the type of person that they're going to be. And so therefore, if you got a parent always working, always doing everything else, and that parent is not spending any emotional time with that child, telling that child that they're smart, teaching them how to read, teaching them how to build confidence in themselves, guess what? That child is now walking around clueless. And because that parent didn't say anything to that child, guess what? The enemy is going to bring somebody in that child's life to say some ugly stuff that's going to damage that child identity, the way they see themselves. And that's why so many times children identity have been damaged, because guess what? It's dangerous when nobody ain't said nothing about you, when nobody haven't told you smart, told you intelligent, told you that you can do anything that you want to do. When they see you in the room, hey, how was school? Making you feel important, letting you know which pair of shoes you like, the blue shoes or the green shoes, making you feel like your opinion matters. Because when you don't say anything, now that child doesn't have an identity to face who they are. And so therefore, when the enemy puts somebody to speak something negative in their life, guess what? it's going to change how they see themselves. So now they're going to see themselves from a negative image because nothing was ever put on the inside of them from their parents to combat whatever other people say about them. And this is why I tell parents, you got to, especially young people, you got to do more than just have babies. You got to spend time with those babies to educate them, speak into their life, tell them that they're beautiful, tell them that they're smart, tell them that they can be whatever they want to do. Let them know that I value you, I appreciate you, I love you, because you're building up their self-esteem. So when somebody try to tell them something bad about them, they'll say, no, I don't believe that. No, I'm not going to accept that. That's not what my mom said. That's not what my dad said. I believe what my mom said about me over what you say. I believe what my dad said about me over what you say. And that's how we're supposed to be when that devil come and try to tell us something about ourselves. Oh, you sick? No, that's not what my dad said. My dad said that I'm the healed of the Lord. Yeah, I may be feeling some pains, but I don't care. But my dad says I'm healed, and guess what? I'm the healed of the Lord. This is when you know how to hold your God-ordained identity and not allow the enemy to put his image on the inside of you to change how you see yourself. This is why we got to understand as a people how to recognize that the goal of the enemy is to come after your identity, because your identity is who you are, it's your qualities, it's your beliefs, it's how you express yourself. It makes you the person who you are. And so therefore, when you have not had a strong foundation in who you are, the enemy is going to bring somebody in your life that's going to give you a false identity. This is why you have a lot of people thinking that I got to share my body. I got to show my body to make somebody want me. I got to show my body to let them know that I'm good enough just like them. I got to let somebody know, look what I got. Because if you come over here, I'm going to give you what I got. And this is where it's a broken people, because the identity was shattered from little children. And because sometimes we grew up in ignorant households and unhealthy families, that guess what? As we grew, those things was never addressed. And so guess what? Those unresolved issues is hindering this adult life. So you got this grown lady sitting up here showing her body, looking for love because it's something that she should have got as a child. Now here it is, she 40 years old, feeling like she got to give her body just for somebody to look at her, for somebody to appreciate her. Because when she was a child, mom had to work 2 jobs because mom was a single parent. So when she got home, mom was too tired to talk. Mom too tired to do anything other than saying, here go your food, I'm going to bed. So therefore, it was no conversation. That's the goal of the enemy, to get you. So now you're in relationship with people. You don't want to talk to nobody. You're pushing people away because here it is. You're used to relationships where it's dysfunctional. You don't talk things out. You don't tell how you feel. You keep everything secret, everything isolated, because that's how you was raised. You raised yourself. You was at home by yourself. And that's the goal of the enemy, to get you where you don't talk to nobody. He don't want you to realize that what you're doing is wrong. He don't want you to recognize that you need somebody to speak in your life and tell you, I believe in you. Go ahead and try for that promotion. I believe in you. That song you sang was beautiful. I believe in you. Go back to school. You're not too old to go back to school. You need somebody to believe in you. But when you don't know, you look for other people and things, materialistic things. This is why we have a lot of people want to use things to make them feel some kind of way, feel better. So if they feel like they got on the Michael Kors outfit, Michael Kors purse, oh, they feel like they're somebody. They feel like they got on name brand clothes. Oh, I'm important now, because they don't feel important in their own name. So they feel like they need somebody else's name to make them feel good about themselves. And see, and this is why that's the goal of the enemy. He want to get your identity where you look at your name, you look at yourself and you say, I want to look like her. I want to look like him. He got it going on. She's smart. Look at the house. And see, here it is. We're looking at outward things, not understanding we were damaged. And this is why I do Deliver Me From Me image program, because this is where you got to go to the root of your problems and recognize where have your identity been distorted, because the enemy wants to distort our identity at an early age. So when it happens at an early age, it grows along with you, and it grows along with you that you begin to say, oh, I'm quiet like that. Oh, no, nobody don't like me. Nobody don't love me. Oh, I ain't smart enough. I'm not smart like that. So you grow up with this false identity about yourself, and God saying, that ain't what I said about you. Where did that come from? It came from because the enemy came to steal your identity at a young age. And because we didn't know anything about counseling, they told us counseling was for a certain race of people, not understanding counseling is for anybody who have dealt with an issue that dealt them a bad hand, that gave them a blow, that changed their mindset, changed their attitude, changed the way that that person see life. That person needs counseling. And this is why I tell people, when you see children are acting out, when children are not wanting to eat, children are mad and they're hitting other kids and they're getting in trouble, you got to understand the enemy is coming after that child identity. The enemy is trying to shape them to be somebody that God never called them to be. But sometimes we in our culture decide that we're going to try to whoop on them. We're going to try to discipline, not understand, talking to that child, why are you upset? Because guess what? There was one of the reasons, the things that happened to me. When my mom and my dad broke up, nobody said nothing to me. Here it is, they broke up when I was a little kid, had to be around 2 or 3 years old. But guess what? All I know is I remember dad being in the house, maybe between 2 to 5 years old, dad being in the house. All of a sudden I'm waking up, dad is not there. So I'm sitting up here wondering what's going on. I'm thinking that it's my fault. Every time I see my dad come and visit, I'm trying to get him and my mom back together. Nobody bothered to tell me anything. So all these years, here it is, I'm 18 years old with a baby myself, trying to still get my parents together because I was still wounded from what I saw as a kid. Because here it is, he made me feel like I was special when I was a kid. So then when they broke up, guess what? Nobody started speaking it to me. Nobody made me feel special like daddy. He's called me the $1 million baby. And so every time I come in the room, he make a big deal. And so here it is, the person who made me feel all special, now I don't see them no more. Guess what? It made my self-esteem go down. So then now mama busy. And then when she do get in a relationship, she's spending time with the relationship other than when she telling me to go do something. But it was no more of me feeling special. So guess what the enemy did? He come to crash my identity. So then I'm like, why am I here? Do anybody see me? Do anybody know, what, that I'm hurting? Here it is. I would do stuff wanting attention, but would get fussed at. That's why I was running my mouth telling business, because it seemed like I didn't get no other attention until I started getting in trouble. And so we got to understand, when children start getting in trouble, it's because something is hurting them and they don't know how to express it. And so this is one of the things that I talk about even in my book, that we need to start expressing things to our kids. You may not tell them every little detail, but you need to communicate with them, because guess what? It will affect their life. And so as I come to a close, and I do want to mention, so if you hadn't had a chance, I'm taking pre-sale orders for my book, is What You Don't Know, because these are lessons that I have experienced in my life that has caused me a lot of pain and hardship. And I'm the type of person, I rather learn from somebody else's mistake instead of me making the same mistake. But if you can tell me the mistake and I don't have to make that mistake, I'd rather learn it from you, so I won't do it. And so that's what this book is about. These are books of deliverance, and this is volume 1. And so volume 2 is going to be coming out shortly. And so I want you to begin to understand, we got to learn from our mistakes. We got to learn from other people's mistakes, because guess what? It's going to cost you years. Some things have cost me years because I did not know and I did not educate myself. I was ignorant in a lot of areas in my life. And so therefore, and I was hanging around people who could not really help me and help me get what I needed. And so I'm very big on educating yourself. I'm very big on being around people that can help you, or if they're walking in that direction that you want to go, you want to get with those kind of people. And so if you didn't get a chance to get the book, I am going to have a book signing party, and that's going to be announced. But if you can't come to the book signing party, and the book will be on Amazon, but also I'm just doing pre-sale orders. And so therefore, if you would like to support me in that endeavor by purchasing a book, please look at on my page. It's pinned on my Facebook page. And also, I want to let everybody know my new upcoming mentorship class will be getting started in April. And so if you're ready to dive in some of these things that I'm talking about, and you say, I want to get to this issue where I can deal with this stuff that's plaguing my life, I want to let you know, let's be ready. April 2024. Let's get it. So this is Apostle Lisa Biggers, your deliverance coach. I pray that this message and this nugget is a blessing to you, because this is where we got to stop thinking that God is going to magically make your life turn around. No, your life is going to turn around when you engage God and when you engage his principles, when you're doing the necessary things, because sometimes you got to pray the right prayers. Sometimes you got to know that some things you're going to have to go beyond praying, but you're going to have to fast. Some things you're going to have to get deliverance of that you ain't going to be able to do by yourself. And so you got to know what you need and stop just putting God in a box and saying, oh, God gonna do it. No, you got to be willing to educate yourself, and you got to be willing to invest in yourself. And so if you're not willing to invest in yourself, you got to ask yourself, you know what, is this some self-hatred going on? Because if I can buy the best weave and I can buy some nice rims, but I don't want to invest in somebody investing into somebody helping me, because what I'm doing is changing my life, something is wrong with you. And so this is what you got to go back and say, you know what, I need some deliverance somewhere. So as I come to a close, this is Apostle Lisa Biggers, your deliverance coach. I will see you all Thursday. I love you with the love of the Lord. Be blessed.